Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I review martial arts books and talk about other martial arts related subjects. And today I'm going to be reviewing American Arnis Concepts by John Mayer, not the singer. And this was published in 2014. And the author of this book, I may be, up front, I'm going to let you guys know I might be a little bit biased. I've been to a couple of this guy's seminars, and I've interacted with him. My copy of the book is autographed. We're not friends. We don't know each other, but, interactions with an individual may color one's perception and therefore the review. Just a heads up. So, the book starts off by covering the fundamentals that you would expect, like, how to grip the stick, the salutation that is used in American Arnis Concepts. It then goes into the 5 zones of attack. He refers to his system as modified cinco terros, and that means like 5 strikes, I think. So most Filipino martial arts will have a number of angles, usually 12. And in a seminar, Mr. Mayer, maybe it's doctor at this point, in the biography section he says he's in a PhD thing. Anyway, he mentions that the idea of 12 strikes comes from sort of an interweaving of religious ideas. So a lot of Catholic ideas have made their way into various aspects of Filipino culture. So a lot of times you get 12 strikes because there were 12 apostles. And I'm going to take him at his word for that. This is what I've heard. But in the interest of being completely honest, I haven't done a whole lot of research beyond that. I don't know how true that is. With that being said, having seen a lot of the 12 strikes that other Filipino styles have, I'm actually quite relieved to see that there are only 5 angles in this, because usually the 12 get sort of redundant at about 9 or 10. Anyway, because he's simplified it into 5 angles, you've got high right, low right, high left, low left, and then overhead or down the middle. They're sort of used interchangeably. And he has simplified his attacks into 3 basic types. So, using a pin, you have a slash, which is what you'd expect, and you have a thrust. The thrusts, as he defines them, have the striking side coming out of the thumb side of the hand, and you have stabs, which have the striking side coming out of the pinky or hammer fist side of the hand. And already we're getting this picture that, this is about simplifying what are often very complicated systems. And in light of that simplification, although you will find this in other Filipino martial arts, there's this notion that attacks with the stick, with the knife, and with the empty hand are all interchangeable, which again he presents in, I think, actually a full chapter. I will note that many of these chapters are pretty brief. So for instance, he's showing, you can use a stick, slash at angle 1, and then a knife slash at angle 1, and then a hammer fist at angle 1. And before he actually gets into the more in-depth techniques, one of the final things he goes over is the the concept of point of pain, as well as the blocking concepts. Now, point of pain is the idea that the part of the body that you strike is going to draw the attention of the person who you've struck. I will quibble with this bit. I understand the principle. I have also seen people do incredible things under the effects of adrenaline. You know, I'm skeptical that point of pain would work universally, you know, in every situation. It's a nice idea to have, and it might come out more in sparring. I'm concerned about whether or not it would show up when things go live. But outside of that, he's got a pretty good section on warm-ups and drills. There's a lot of stuff he does that includes use of the sticks, including push-ups with a stick in your hand, which, as he says, is used to sort of, you know, he first encountered it and he saw an instructor in the Philippines discipline his students by making them, it's knuckle push-ups. It's knuckle push-ups while you're holding a stick. It's not fun. But he also incorporates the stick in doing like sit-ups. So you'd throw the stick past your knees as you bring your knees in. And I think some of those ideas are very interesting. You're also going to see other more stick-specific exercises for building things like grip strength. After that, there's a lot of stuff on stick versus stick defense. These are all single stick versus single stick. In this, he will cover all three kinds of attack. So you're going to get all 5 angles and all 3 types of attack. So defense against an angle 1 slash, defense against an angle 1 thrust, and defense against an angle 1 cut. And again, one person with a stick versus another person with a stick. I think this section pretty much forms the basis of what you're going to see for the rest of the book. So once you get those ideas in mind, then everything else you simply substitute the weapon more or less. But I think these fundamental movements are going to be the ones that, you know, stick with the rest of the book. After that, you get defenses against both knife and empty hand attacks. In these instances, he's only covering the slashing type of attack. So, you know, there is no equivalent of, you know, defending against an empty hand angle 2 thrust in this section. They're all the slashing type. Then you get the knife defense itself is notable because it's more modernized, and by that I mean, you know, he is a member of the law enforcement community, and he is very concerned about, you know, use of force and all that. So, for instance, instead of like, you defend against a knife and then you stab the guy in the neck and rip his throat out, he's not showing any of that stuff. You know, after the initial knife defense, he will go for cuts against the thigh, right at the level of the knee, with the idea that if you are able to sever the tendons or damage the muscle, then your attacker cannot pursue you. So now he doesn't have a knife. He's probably going to have trouble holding a knife because of the nature of the defenses against that. And now he's not going to be able to come after you because you've just cut the tendon that makes his leg flex. So I definitely appreciate that it's more modernized and not everything is, you know, super diddly trying to kill a guy. Because not just legally, but also psychologically, you know, we should have options besides ending a person's life with everything we do in a training scenario. He also shows some empty hand work versus a stick, and stick versus stick work. The stick versus stick work has a lot of the disarms in it. So you're going to, I think you see what is it? There's stick and vine. I can't remember which one's which. Probably stick. the stick style disarms. And then toward the end, you're also going to get, he will at least present an idea of double stick work, stick versus staff, and advanced empty hand versus a stick, which would include taking the person to the ground and the utilization of joint locks. So, overall, this book is something that I would highly recommend. The pros include the fact that a lot of the techniques are interchangeable, and they are shown to be interchangeable. You don't always get this with books on Filipino martial arts. It's always there in theory. You hear that a lot in Filipino martial arts. Anything you do with a stick, you can do with a knife, you can do with your hands. This actually shows it and gives you drills to practice those things and to transition from stick work to knife work to empty hand work. The book itself is also very concise. Like I said, it's not very big. The largest section is on the stick versus stick defenses. And there is a focus on practicality and, cutting away at less essential elements. Again, we've gone from 12 angles of attack to 5. We've gone from, any number of different classifications of attacks to 3 of them. If I had any criticisms, I don't know. I have a lot of books on empty hand fighting, and in those, the empty hand stuff that he is showing would get their own paragraphs. They'd get more attention. So it's possible that the idea of interchangeability helps to the reader to simplify. Okay, I understand a stick does this, so also my hand can do that. But maybe it's just my personal bias of being more familiar with books that will go more in depth on each and every strike. But I do wish that there was more stuff on the empty hand section. And, organizationally, I think, maybe it could have used a little bit more work there. Because we get, the stick versus stick disarms are separate from the stick versus stick defenses. Those, I don't know. For me personally, I feel like those should have followed. All that being said, these are just nitpicks. Who would I recommend this to? If you are a beginner to Filipino martial arts, this would be one I would suggest. If you are interested in stick work and or knife work and the ability to transition between those different mediums and empty hand work, this is also a good book for that. So again, new to Filipino martial arts, there are going to be different concepts and stuff in here, but this is going to have a lot of the basic movements that you're going to find across the board. And in the second category, if you're interested in stick and knife work and have no place to begin, this is a good place to begin. And I'd say this is more for like self-defense stuff. And if I had to make, a giant list of martial arts books that are good for self-defense, this one would probably show up in there. So, yeah, that's all I have for now. And I think this was briefer than I wanted it to be. But again, my personal bias aside from having met this guy, the material, I think, holds up pretty well. So I think it's a good book. Anyway, that's all for this week, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.